Yo guys, what up, what up, what up, what up? We're here with another Stay Black here. And look, man, we'll just jump right in. This is going to be like an hour, so we're going to be keep this strict to an hour. So let's just, without further ado, just get into the main thing. So inauguration is about to happen. Biden is about to be sworn in as the president, and it's pretty much the end for Trump. So on the one hand, I think what obviously I've been reading are all of the pardons that Trump has been making. I think this guy has pardoned like Lil Wayne. I think they say he may pardon Kodak Black, and these are like the kind of last things that he's sort of doing before he says adios. But also as well is, will anything happen on inauguration day? Will anything truly pop off on an inauguration day? Are you going to see any violence? Because I was looking at the reports where you had people who were armed, sort of just walking up and down. But I think these were pro-Trump people, and I think this was actually in Texas, not Washington, because they say like in Washington, there isn't like a kind of like where you can carry your weapons legally in Washington, but you can do so in Texas. So I'm going to come first to Hitman with this, man. I mean, what do you expect to happen on inauguration day with Trump leaving and Biden coming in? Because again, look, looking at all of these soldiers are coming in. It's like the biggest show of troops that's you've seen in Washington since like the World War, something like that. So do you expect? Because I don't think I expect anything to happen. But I was talking to my brother about this. And my brother was like, "Bro, if there is any day that anything will pop off, it's Wednesday today." So, Hitman, what do you think? Anything will erupt come Wednesday when Biden is inaugurated?
I don't think anything crazy. I think despite all the security, I don't think anything crazy is going to actually pop off. Um, just to give you an idea, what was there? There was a pretense for this. So, like, they said on the 17th, that on the 17th, basically on Sunday, that that there was going to be a bunch of riots, and there were not riots, but there were going to be a bunch of armed protests, like large scale armed protests at all 50 states. You probably heard that one. But
Mm.
pretty much what ended up happening in reality was that only a couple only a couple state capitals had protest, and they were only like in the numbers of like 5 to 10 people. Some had 20 people at most with rifles, and pretty much a couple of the guys at those events, they were showing up saying that, yeah, we're defending our rights, but for the most part, most of the right wing militias were staying away because they were worried about stuff like the ATF. I mean, that's an alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Basically, those guys are the guys that could take, if you're violating gun laws, they take your guns. Yeah. The other thing too is that pretty much the way that it's supposed to play out tomorrow, if, for the in the states, is that pretty much at 8 o'clock in the morning, um, Donald Trump is supposed to be leaving office. He's already planned to pardon 100 to pardon 100 people, and one of them I think that's pretty much confirmed is the only one that's confirmed is what's his name is Lil Wayne, but a bunch of people are
Wait,
because
so,
you
okay, so,
gotta.
so just to clarify, so the Lil Wayne part, because just so I'm crystal clear with this, because so Lil Wayne was expected to do prison time because of possession of a
And
for some firearms. So a presidential pardon would mean that he will face no prison time no matter what.
yeah, so the pardon power from the president is federal. If it's a state charge, that can only be pardoned by the state governor. So this is a federal weapons charge, and because Little Wayne's charge was a federal weapons charge, it'll get pardoned by the president, which means that it's really a get out of jail free card. I mean, pretty much.
All right, so okay, so Tony, what about you? Like, I mean, do you expect anything to happen on Wednesday, and what do you make of Trump pardoning Lil Wayne and all of his pardons on his final day?
So I think, as far as Wednesday is concerned, because of what happened at the Capitol, I'm sure that they have security on lock, and because of the outrage of the lack of response, I'm sure they don't want that to replay or rehash that out in any aspect. As far as Little Wayne is concerned, I'm sure. Well, on one hand, I don't think anything of it because I feel like once presidents are about at the tail end of their last term or whatever, they do typically pardon a lot of people. And I think he is just showing his gratitude to Lil Wayne for his previous support as a loyalist in a sense. So I don't find this surprising. I don't find this awkward or weird or anything. And Lil Wayne is just as elitist as Trump is, and they have each other's back. So the rich are helping the rich, and it is what it is. So I don't think anything twice about it.
Hey, just a quick inject on there too, with the pardons. We talk about Lil Wayne, but there's a couple others that that pretty much a lot of people are talking about. The biggest one a lot of people are talking about, as we all know, is Julian Assange. A lot of people have been pushing that. Even pundits, news reporters. Friends of Trump, friends of Julian Assange, and a lot of Americans and a lot of people around the world are saying, yeah, just free Julian Assange because they feel that he's this advocate of free speech.
Wow. Okay. So, MD, so your thoughts on whether you think you will see any violence or any kind of major incidents happen on Wednesday for inauguration, and what do you make of Trump and his pardon, specifically him pardoning Lil Wayne?
I mean, but regarding Lil Wayne, I don't care. No, just because he's a fucking cuck that looks like a gremlin. Like, who cares? Only here's the thing. Lil Wayne is completely ignorant of politics. He only cares about the world as it directly affects him and what he can see and what he's experienced, and he doesn't care. He's admitted to this. I'm not pulling this out of the ether. Like he has said this, right? Like,
oh yeah, no, because there was no, it wasn't Katie Couric. It was another news person where she asked him about BLM, and he's like, look, man, what the hell has BLM done for me? Like, I don't care about that stuff. So yeah,
how are black people oppressed? Look at me, like fucking idiot. Anyway, but he can pardon who he wants at this point. Like, nothing's gonna shock us. It's not like, okay, so he pardons people, right? There's gonna be outrage. There's always outrage, but nothing's gonna happen. It's not like they're gonna tell him, oh, you can't do that, right? He's not pardoning himself, or at least he said he's not gonna try to pardon himself because he just knows that'll get shut down, and if anything, it'll be blood in the water for people who are trying to get him, like, and it's not going to do anything for the cases like the Southern District case. He can't pardon himself away from that. So it's a moot point. He's going to jail for something, and he knows he's going to jail for. So even if he doesn't go to jail, his name is going to be ruined in many circles. I mean, it's already going out there that people will not hire people who worked for him at this point. Like, people are legitimately being they're blackballed. They're blacklisted in the professional world for right now, for having dealt with him. Forbes put that deal out the other day that said, basically, if you hire any of these people for any position, we are going to treat your entire business as if it has no ethics and you're lying all the time.
But do you think this will pertain to Lil Wayne as well, that he'll be blacklisted?
No, because let's be real. Most of the people who listen to his music anyway, outside of people who just like the beat, like people who are into that culture, don't give a shit about politics to the point where they would let him. Like, there was a time where getting pardoned by the president you'd be considered a snitch in a hood. No, real talk, right?
Yeah.
But now they're going to be like, they don't care about that. Let's be real. The people who are in that culture don't care about politics on that level. And does that sound broad and sweeping? Sure. But do a lot of people get their news and information from people like him? Sure. But it is what it is, man. It's the world is going to keep spinning. There might be a few people who pop off some dumb shit tomorrow. They're going to be quickly put down, and that's it. I'm like 100%. I'm staying away from the streets as much as possible tomorrow, only because I will kill somebody if they touch me. You know, it's that simple.
Wait. So are you in Texas? Which states are you in?
I'm in Dallas, homie. So
Yeah,
yeah, like
no, because I was watching a report. Maybe you can verify that where there were some far right guys who were armed, but this was in Texas. They said who were just like doing some pro-Trump rally kind of thing.
yeah, I mean there are those guys, and they pop up like they randomly have these Trump support rallies here. No one, people pay no real attention. Like you got to understand, the average person is not a psychopath who wears Trump attire, has a Trump flag flying from their pickup truck. I don't have a Trump or Biden flag from flying behind my pickup truck. You know, but I know people who do. We make fun of them. Like 100%, we make fun of those guys, right? Especially now. We had one guy locally who we were like, "You gonna lower that flag yet, or what? What's up?" No, man, he said some dumb shit like, I'm gonna fly this flag till it falls apart or something like that. For him, it's not about, understand, it's not about his candidate lost. He feels like he personally lost.
Mm.
He feels like, and that's a lot of these dudes. I keep telling people, it's not Trump represented a lot of these folks' self-esteem. A lot of them were like, "Oh, America forgot about us," and blah, 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 blah. A lot of these people legit felt that Trump, like the same way that black folks felt Obama spoke about black needs and about, someone asked on Hitman's social media, what has Obama done? And one of the responses was he talks about it.
Hmm.
A lot of these people feel the same way about Trump, that he finally talked about how they feel disenfranchised. They feel left in the cold. So for them, it's spiritual as much as it is just, my side won. It's somebody actually gave a shit about me. This man doesn't care about them. In fact, he complained that people who look like them were raiding the Capitol because they looked poor. But they will still defend him because he's somebody saying what they say, but now he's the president saying it.
Mm.
Right? So for them, it's personal. It's deeply personal. And down here, man, I'm going to tell you, ironically, I was laughing about this with him, man. I said, I've lost more Facebook friends. I'm doing air quotes. I've lost more Facebook friends in the local community in the past 3 months than I have the entire time I lived here in Texas. I literally had somebody tell me, "Man, MB, you changed. You used to be so, you used to be so right on. And what you said was, the way you put things, blah, 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 blah." So he didn't have a problem when I was roasting Obama for his failures.
Mm.
He had a problem with me roasting Trump.
So what, is this friend black or white?
Oh, he's a white dude, but he's a psychopath too, because he's,
Okay.
You understand. I keep certain people around me purely so that if I know that if I start agreeing with them, I've gone too far.
Mm.
Right? 100%. Like he's a Confederate apologist.
Okay.
But you need those perspectives around you. Otherwise, you have an echo chamber. You need to hear what the other side is saying.
Okay. Okay. Actually, let me
I have to agree with that.
Wait, actually, I'm going to bring in Corey. So Corey, your thoughts. Wednesday's inauguration and Trump pardons, man. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So, hey guys, what's up? What's going on? Nice to hear you guys. The inauguration, I gotta be honest, I forgot it was tomorrow. I'm in Germany though, so I don't really. I forgot it was tomorrow. I mean, I pray for you guys out there, especially MB guys out there who are actually on the ground. Be safe, man. Be safe, because these motherfuckers out here are kind of crazy. Why didn't I think Trump should have probably pardoned Edward Snowden? I think that would have been a really big fuck you towards the end of his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why didn't he ever do that? I'm gonna just talk about what you talk about in sections here. Lil Wayne, I think he hasn't had to think about black issues in a while, and he hasn't had to live like regular black folks in a while, So I mean, for lack of a better word, Lil Wayne is a sellout. You know what I'm saying? He's a sellout. I mean, it's the most, it will be different if he was like Akon or something like that, who's actually kind of conservative. Actually, Akon is actually kind of a conservative brother, but he does something for the community, But I
And
hear
and, and, and and also like another thing with Akon, remember he's from Senegal. So even if he's lived in America, he still has that.
you
But
know,
Lil Wayne, you are 100%. You've grown up through American
and
sort of, so you should be more well versed than a guy who, yeah, I can always go back to
and it's just and
Senegal.
it just says a lot about our society, man. It says a lot about American society. It says a lot about African American society. That when you get money, man, you kind of like forget. You kind of like turn your back on. And I mean, that's we've seen that over and over again. It's not just in America, in the United States, it's other parts too. But I will say, man, a lot of feminists, they don't have a problem listening to. I noticed what MB was saying, what his friends were saying. Oh man, you've changed. A lot of people don't have issues when you talk about black people, or when you talk about when you're roasting black people. But the moment you start roasting their group, if they're feminists, the moment you start roasting women, if they're white, the moment you start roasting white people, then all of a sudden they got a problem with what you're saying. So I see that
Alphabet
happening a
people
lot.
too, bro. Alphabet people too.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yep.
Dave was
I
right.
mean,
Chappelle was right about that. You start roasting the hot group of the moment, and they turn on you.
yeah.
Okay, so do you think anything is gonna pop off on
Oh yeah.
Wednesday then?
I mean, man, it's hard to tell. Like, I think there's gonna be a lot of security in Washington. There's gonna be a lot of security in the inauguration. I was telling Sam that if anything happens, I think it'll be after the inauguration, like right afterwards. I think that assassination, it should not be overlooked. Assassination attempt should not be overlooked, because these guys out here are kind of crazy, man. And like the guys were saying, these guys think that this is a personal loss for them, not just a political loss. This is a personal loss for them. And you guys are seeing something that you guys in Europe and overseas are seeing something that we have always known in America, which is that you got an underbelly of society here in the United States, of these people, man, who are just beyond fucking gone, man. They are crazy, man, and they don't read, they don't listen to, they don't watch anything but what's in their echo chamber, and they have guns. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, what you think is going to happen with that? You know what I'm saying? So this is just, I mean, to quote the brother Malcolm, man, this is chickens coming home to roost, man. What you think going to happen when you have an entire society, a community of people that you let do whatever the fuck they want to do? Now all of a sudden you tell them they can't. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? So I hope nothing bad happens, man, but I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, I want to even now go into, because obviously we sort of touched on it like last week, which is obviously those psychopaths who stormed the Capitol building. So a lot of them have now either been arrested or they are facing arrests. So do you think that all of the people that were responsible for this are going to receive the time that they deserve? Because again, it's about keeping the same energy. Because again, what they've did is like it's a criminal offense to the nth degree. So these guys should face 20, 30, 40 years for trying to break into a federal Capitol building and so forth, seeking to do harm. So what are your take on the arrests that have been made? And do you think that these arrests are going to be so severe that it should, to a certain point, deter any of these far right groups from trying anything, knowing that no, even if you're white, you're still going to be punished? Hitman.
So pretty much with the arrest, it's going to be interesting because what's happening is FBI technology in action. They've arrested somewhere around. They've opened over 250 cases. They've arrested around 170 people, and charged them with multiple charges, ranging from everything from trespassing all the way to what I think with people that they've actually caught assaulting a police officer. And there's two cases that are open that could possibly lead to really, really big charges. A lot of these, I know that they're trying to set really high examples on some of the people. Like the guy with the Confederate flag is facing a 10-year charge and a $250,000 like penalty. I think that Andrew Johnson dude, the guy with the lectern, that dude's probably gonna face 5 to 10 years. And yeah, I mean, and people just entering the building are gonna do time too. One of the biggest charges though, the two big charges that are gonna come out of this is they yesterday they just detained a 22-year-old girl who they said possibly stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop, as well as offered to sell it to the Russians. So if she gets caught for that, she's gonna get that's textbook treason.
Punishable by death.
That's 20 years in prison or death. That's 20 years to life or death or the death penalty. The other one too is the person who killed the firefighter. I mean, not firefighter, killed the police officer. That person gets found. They basically get felony murder, and that's life in prison.
All right, so Tony, thoughts on these arrests and so forth, and what you think these arrests will do for these far right peeps?
So, as I indicated last week, I think that as far as returning the same energy for these crimes as we've sort of viewed like Black Lives Matter protests and all of that, and the people who are sitting in jail now for those protests, I do think that the way that we describe this incident, the adjectives we use for these people, or the monikers we use for these people should be the same. Like, again, in the words of Obama, we should be calling them thugs. We should be calling them gangsters in a sense, because I think that what they did was disrupt society way more than what Black Lives Matter did in any of their protests, in my opinion. And I think that one of the major differences that I'm seeing now is that the public outcry or the public hearing per se, as far as the response to everything that's happened, has been under the guise of a unity message. Even when I look back at how Biden responded to this, it was more like, hey, respect the law, blah, blah, blah. But there was no general call for the arrest of these individuals. There was no general call, to, again, respond to them like you would a Black Lives Matter protest. And I think that it's interesting to me because a lot of the rhetoric behind what happened at the Capitol and whatnot, versus what happened with Black Lives Matter protests, is there's this comparison of like, oh, it's like a civil war, black against whites, blah, blah, blah. And I think that if we were to really analyze what happened with the Civil War, at the end of it, there was this, again, similar to today, this message of, hey, let's just unify, let's forgive and forget. There was even a portion of that where, Abraham Lincoln gave not reparations, but funding to the slave owners to say, hey, let's just count the losses for what they are. Here's some money for the slaves that we are now saying that you can no longer have. Let's do away with everything, and then not give the reparations to the actual slaves that were actually affected by white supremacy as a whole. And I think that even now, again, with my thoughts on like how Biden is responding to this, or even other politicians, it's more so, or even on that day specifically, it was not a call for like, hey, get the National Guard in there and like arrest all these people, throw them all in jail. It was more, again, hey, let's unify. We're better than this. This is not America, when this is exactly what America has always been. And I think that, in a sense, what I will miss about Trump is the exposure of white people. This idea that, hey, these white folks, they just came out of the woodworks just because of Trump. I think, again, there have been people in plain sight this entire time, and whether we choose to see them for who they are, I just think that Trump has always been the ultimate excuse. He's always been the ultimate, fallback guy for a lot of the stuff that has been happening. And I think that a lot of what he's been able to get away with is because of his accomplices throughout Congress who still hold their positions, who still hold the media's attention, and will continue to further whatever Trump was trying to say this entire time. So I don't think that, our attention should be more so like, oh, well, what's Trump going to do? It really should be more like, okay, those Republicans that have sided with him, like the Ted Cruz's and all of that, who were also pushing this vote recount and some of these, what we call lies about, like, whether, there was election fraud and all of that. Like, we should be eyeing those individuals and holding them accountable, right? Like, I feel like we should go to them because those people, in my opinion, have also incited the riot, have also equally comparative to Trump, have also put out there in the atmosphere this sense of doubt. But yet we're just saying, let's just get rid of Trump. And I think in that sense, even with people getting arrested, again, like the Civil War, I think that we are just going to...
Okay, so basically, so you don't think that Trump leaving and anything will stop this far right's existence. So you still think that it's still going to exist even if Trump goes to that Trump does not actually raise the issue?
I am saying that this far right, or the concepts behind the far right and all of that, existed well before Trump. I think that he profited off of this. I think that he propelled his name off of this. And we are silly or really in a deep sleep or something if we think like you just remove one person as if it's not an entire organization working together to move in the direction that Trump was moving in. So even like I'll have a conversation with someone and they'll say something like, "Oh, well, Trump really just wanted a monarch. He wanted to be a king." And like I personally don't think that there was any legal way for him to even get to that point where he could like extend his presidency like that. I do think that our constitution and our policies are very straightforward in a sense of presidential term limits and things of that nature. And I think that I think it's a very elementary thought, again, to just place all blame on Trump for the country as it is, as if our class system is not similar to the upper class just having complete domination, the middle class just being able to exercise their rights, and then the lower class just being known as powerless in general. And until we realize that, like even moving forward with Biden and Harris and recognizing that they are still elitists, they are still millionaires, and that they really can't really understand, poverty in the way that most poor people do live their lives day to day. That's why, there's these arguments about like Medicare and all that stuff. Like, I just don't think we're going to get much further just because we remove the man. And I think because of that, I think that he will do whatever in his power because he is a rich man and other people behind him will also help find ways to get these white people out of jail. Of course, they'll get out early off of good behavior because this was their first incident, and they'll find loopholes. This is what privileged people do. So I don't think that just because we arrest them now, they're like, oh, it's guaranteed that they're going to be in there for 10, 30 years. Like, I would not be surprised.
I agree. The thing I'm saying about that is that some of the more serious ones, like the person who killed the cop and the person who stole the laptop, those people are in deep trouble because both of those charges, one is felony. It's one is felony murder, which is one of the higher murder charges that we have, and then the other one is treason, which treason is which is probably like the highest charge you can get highest federal charge you can get apart from murder. It's the only nonviolent crime in America that you can get executed for.
I just don't believe somebody's going to get executed for this, in my opinion. Again, especially if we're moving forward with this idea of, let's just unify. It's the Civil War all over again. It's the ending of it.
I agree with you. It won't happen.
Wait. MB, I want to bring in MB. So MB, thoughts on this on the arrest of the far right and what happens to these guys from Wednesday onwards when Biden takes presidency?
Well, so they're not. I mean, I think Hitman's right. The most egregious crimes will have the book thrown at them, but they're not going to execute that little girl. I mean, the same people they're not going to execute her for the same reason people are calling the woman who was shot in the Capitol a murder victim. Like people will never want to see white women be portrayed as anything but innocent, and it's for the same reason why that one young woman who accused that black man, the black kid, about stealing her phone, keeps harping on, I'm just a young white woman, I'm just a young girl. And she said when the reporter aptly pointed out that, well, he's a 14-year-old kid. He's a kid. She was like, well, they allegedly say he's 14, like as if they're lying about his known age, right? Like it's always a push to make black folks seem like darker, more dangerous,
older than they are.
And also always older in age,
women and men, girls and boys, because girls are over sexualized at a young age. Black girls are over sexualized at a young age too.
Yep. Oh, because of course, Obama's daughter shows her midriff. Oh my God, what kind of a whore are they raising, right? And it's a scandal. But of course, because nobody fed that fuckery and it's bullshit, it didn't go anywhere because everyone said, "Sit down, Karen." But no, nobody's really going to. The guy who walked into the Capitol with the Confederate flag, the guy who beat the cop to death, the guy who walked in with flexi cuffs because he was going to kidnap people. Those people will be harshly prosecuted. Everyone else is going to get a slap on the wrist. The woman here in Texas who actually demanded that Trump give her a pardon, she's screwed because she put the president on the spot. And whether or not people agree with Trump, first off, we got to stop pretending that Dems and Republicans are really against each other on that level, because they all went in there okay for money because most of them are lawyers. Like, so what's the statistic, Tony? What's the statistic? Like 90% of them are lawyers. So
Right.
yeah, so basically a bunch of them went in there okay for money, and even the ones who didn't go in there okay for money are now fucking wealthy. How are people getting wealthy being civil servants? It's because they're taking money, right? So we know that. So why are we pretending that Dems and Republicans give a shit about us more than one or the other? They don't. They care about things that move their own agendas forward. So right now, what we have are people who are not going to prosecute their constituents or the constituents of a fellow congressperson, because those people, they're not the brightest, but they vote, and those votes keep them in power, and that power allows them to be in a pocket of special interests. So basically, if they start actually prosecuting people for doing, like, to the one of them, these Capitol people are saying, "I didn't think I was committing a crime. I thought this was what this country's built on, revolution, et cetera, et cetera." The privilege. If they start prosecuting white people for expressing their privilege, the game is over. They're not going to let that happen. Now, they're going to send a message that you don't come into our house and steal our shit. So that girl is screwed. The people who came to kidnap and torture and whatever, they're screwed. The Congress people who did the reconnaissance tours, and that shit did happen. Those people, nothing's going to happen with that. They may get dismissed, but that'll be the worst of it. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy. If I'm not surprised. But with the image that you just put up, the reason why I was saying, hey, put that up, that's basically Texas right now, right? So you got these guys who they're the types that say white privilege doesn't exist because I had to work hard. Those types are the types that this image signifies, right? That symbolizes. I'm sorry. So you've got, they're okay for money. They got a little knot. They've got like the stereotypical family going on. They pride themselves on posting on social media their truck, their guns, their house, their boat. I've got a shit ton of these guys on my local friends list, right? And to the one of them, I got one that put up an Obama, one big mistake as usual or whatever, what that deal that they had going around. Those are floating around again. People are literally losing their shit in Texas today about tomorrow. Oh, you got people here in the comments talking about, oh, it's going to get worse. Oh, it's going to get worse. Motherfucker, have you been paying attention? It's already that way. You're just aware of it now. I don't see much difference between the world. I mean, aside from the Capitol riot. Well, no, because that's not even unique either. It's not the first time protesters have been inside the Capitol. It's just the first time that they broke through the police. Before, it was more organized. But it's not the first time. If you actually look it up, there's video of the last time it happened. And Tony, you would probably know this. It was like the late 90s or something like that, where they rushed the Capitol and they walked in, and they didn't destroy things. It was more organized, but it's not the first time. So people are acting like this is some weird shit that's happening all of a sudden. It's par for the course. You get enough angry white folks together, they're gonna riot too. They're going to feel entitled to walk in the Capitol.
My thing though, before I go to court, like, so Wednesday onward, what happens to these far right groups? Obviously, without the kind of mouthpiece of Trump, and since Trump is pretty much banned from everything on
They
social
still
media,
have mouthpieces. because you still got people like Matt Gaetz. You still got people like fucking Jim Jordan.
No, it's true. No, but you always need that charismatic leader. That's one
They
popular
still get
figure
their
that everybody
sound
can think.
bites. They still get their sound bites. You got to understand something. These are terrorist cells. They don't need central leadership. It's enough. They went nuts when Trump like said their name on TV. That's the society we live in these days. That's the society we live in these days, where people are okay with committing crimes just to have their name mentioned on the news. It's insane. You have people, literally, all of these people are getting caught because they recorded themselves breaking the law. But they felt entitled to do it. That's the difference.
Okay,
So,
okay. Actually, I want to bring Corey here. So, Corey, your thoughts? Far right group, the arrests, and what happens with the future for them and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are going to be lured up, you know, and and the ones who aren't will use social media to get funds for help. I think, you know, this is where laws and the Constitution and everything is going to be important. You know, I think we're going to see a double standard in some cases, but in cases where people can't afford that white treatment, they won't get that. You know, I think this is going to further divide the country. There's going to be an increase in white domestic terrorism because, like I was telling Sam, somebody's gonna take the vacuum, going to fill the vacuum, going to fill the void that Trump is going to, you know, I mean, Trump is still going to be there, but you're going to have another leader who, as soon as they get a cosign by Trump, you know, all of his supporters are going to, you know, so this is not going anywhere. I think there's going to be an increase in white domestic terrorism in the U.S. after this. Hell yeah, I think so. Especially, you know, those jobs don't come back, and you know, from the COVID thing, you know. But when you have a group of people, you know, who were told that they're the true Americans, right, and they were taken care of by the country while other groups weren't, of course, you know, they're going to be angry about that shit when things are more equal now. When they see things, you know, when they see people getting taken care of who they think shouldn't. You know, this is going to play the future that we're going to enjoy is going to play right into the fantasy of their tyrannical government fantasy. And the fact that it's going to be more brown, more female, and more gay, this new government that's coming into effect now, and less white, and at least not gay in public, you know, is going to make it easier for them to establish an us versus them narrative, you know, and I think that's going to just deepen, man. It's going to deepen and deepen and deepen. I don't know how to fix that, but you know, but yeah, I think the laws and the Constitution is going to be really important these next couple of months, and we're going to see who cares about the fucking law and who cares about the rule of law and the Constitution and who doesn't. You know, these federal judges that Trump put in place. You know, his last 4 years is going to probably be seeing some of the cases that's going to, you know, these people are going to bring to them. We'll see how much they love the country. We'll see how much they love the rule of law. You know, yeah.
I want to jump in and talk about some of these groups as well, just real quick.
Okay.
So
Okay.
with them, so I mean, a lot of people are saying that these guys will get stronger, but I think we have to look back at the time when Obama was president. I think that's pretty much what's going to happen with a lot of these groups. So, yeah, they'll get a bit bolder, but overall their messages will be muffled. They'll be silenced a bit because, I mean, a lot of their platforms are under further check. I mean, Parler is going to come back up, but when Parler comes back, there's going to be there's going to be an increase in moderation because of requirements. Other things too is that a lot of those messages are going to be cut off, are going to be nipped off at the bud by a couple of our different agencies. I mean, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, DNI, DIA, all over the place, and the hammer is going to come down. The hammer is going to come down. I mean, there is going to be a bit of divide, but I mean, this is not something that this is not completely uncharted territory. The United States has gone through worse, and we're going to get through this.
Okay, so actually, I want to bring in Red, because who's sort of been in the chats and so forth. So Red, So just sort of, I want to just you to just sort of bring in everything together because I think because you were saying some interesting things in the comments. So talk to me, just if you just maybe just put it concisely with regards to Trump's presidency, comparing Trump to Obama and this whole far right thing and what maybe America will look like post-Trump.
Sounds good. So, like, for Trump's presidency, I think Trump has done some necessary, irreparable damage to social structure in the U.S. Like, the social climate in the U.S. has never been more toxic than it is today. Racism has been more discussed. And to be honest with you, like, it's a double-edged sword what Trump did, because yes, he did the damage, but this damage has existed in the country for years. Like, since the Rodney King trial, since the 60s, the civil rights movement, since forever. Like African Americans, people of color, immigrants have been complaining about their unfair treatment, and under the Trump presidency, it's been highlighted because honestly, I think he was too blunt. Now, there's two ways you can talk about the Trump presidency, because for me, as an international, like, I'm not from the U.S. As a person that sees the effects of the U.S. on the rest of the world, because the U.S. is the world leader. The world has been much more peaceful compared to Obama, because if you remember pre-Obama, like pre-Trump in 2016, you had ISIS every day in the news. ISIS disappeared after the Dems went away, which, by the way, was proven that the Pentagon did pay $500 million to a British firm to put out propaganda videos. Aside from that, drone strikes have went down. America
but quickly on that, are you saying that it was as a result of Obama that these conflicts were happening, or was it just a byproduct of what Bush had already
byproduct
done?
of Bush? It's all streamlined, because I don't want to blame. This is not Obama's fault. Like, it's not just Obama, because, like, you have to understand, like, Trump is the first outsider president the U.S. has had in probably 50, 60 years. Like, the last one was Kerry, I think. No, not Kerry. What's his name? Shoot, I forgot. They call him a coward.
Kennedy? You're talking about Kennedy?
No, not Kennedy.
Carter.
Oh,
Carter, yes, Carter. Thank you, Carter. Since Carter, he's the last outsider because ever since then they've all been establishment presidents. Even Reagan, to an extent, he was just a puppet. He wasn't like Trump. Reagan did come in.
He was an actor. He was an actor,
yeah, but he was in his end years. It was proven like he was senile, and they were passing policies under his name, like the whole Reaganomics. That was all just to benefit the elite. So with I believe that when Trump came into office, he really hindered their international plans. Like, because they're an empire. Like, just like any, they want to make more wealth. They want to take over more land. Like, Libya was one of the only countries that wasn't indebted to the federal bank, and now it is indebted to the federal bank, and it's in ruins. And it has the slave trade, which is it's infinitely worse pre-America. If you go, it was actually the richest African country, Libya. And like now they're in ruins. They're destroyed. They're like in a major global leader like Gaddafi, which I know people hate on him but like you go back to pre-2011, Gaddafi was a pretty like loved ruler. He was attending football matches. He was but like anyways,
because he wanted to bring Africa as a union.
Yeah, like
as one whole.
He was very.
What I was going to say is that there's some other points that while like I do agree on a lot of the things with Trump taking certain actions internationally, there were some bad things that he did internationally that did have second and third order
like going out of the treaties in France, the France treaty. Yes, he did that, but all of that,
it's not just that. I mean, one that people don't talk about is that while we did pull up from like a lot of the areas from Syria and whatnot, and we drastically reduced our forces, we left the Kurds out to dry.
Yep. And because I'm Syrian, right? So that situation is much more complex. Under Obama, the civil war got worse progressively. When Trump came in and he pulled out his forces, because Kurds are located within northeastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Right. Yeah. And the only reason why they wanted the U.S. was really helping the Kurds was to get their oil fields because from those areas. That was the main reason why. Now, the thing is the U.S. didn't calculate is that they were going too far. The Kurds the land in Syria is pretty much there. It's Qamishli. That's where they're from. It's in the northern part of Syria. It's pretty much all Kurd central. They go there. They don't speak Arabic they speak Kurdish. Even in the Iraq, same thing. They all have their own communities. It's in Turkey where the majority of the problems are. The only thing I don't think Trump is much of a war master, so I think that's why he didn't really could really get involved, because he can't mess up his relationship with what's the president of Turkey's Erdogan.
Everyone, yeah.
And like, because Turkey's a major force in the world, and like you can't just step on those toes because you're going over sovereign nation's land. And honestly, that's not the United States' position to even get involved in that, because the countries were never an ally. Like if you're aiding Israel, Israel is recognized by the United Nations as a sovereign nation, so aiding them is aiding another nation. But when you're aiding a group within a nation, you're then overtaking their sovereignty, and that's against international law. That's like, for example, if another, like Russia, were to just, like, let's say, fund, hypothetically speaking, fund African Americans in the U.S. to overthrow the government in Great. That's never going to happen. The U.S. would never allow that.
Or Russian Americans.
Was also, but also another thing, when you talk about within a nation, that also ties into the whole thing that with the topic of Trump and his position on Israel, and pretty much how he's, and pretty much, I mean, this gets into a big can of worms. Basically, how he feels about Palestine. About Palestine and the West Bank and all of that stuff.
Okay, so in this question, so for Red, though, specifically because you're Syrian, and also specifically with the huge issue that happened in Syria, with Biden coming in, does that make you hopeful, more fearful for how Syria and just how America as an international police force? Because again, the UN are freaking useless. America is the UN. How America will operate internationally?
I fear Democrats, man. I actually fear Democrats, because the Democrats never shoot straight. Like with Republicans, you know what you're getting. Like Republicans, they're up front. They'll tell you we're gonna screw you, and they'll screw you. They don't have any. The Republicans' allegiance is to the elite. Democrats, you don't even know. They're all shysty and they're shady. I don't trust them at all.
Yeah,
like
that's your non-Americanism right there showing.
No,
I'm
Canadian.
I'm as left as
that kind of makes sense, though.
That's
not true. That sounds about right.
I mean,
it sounds right because that's the propaganda. But you got to understand that you think Nancy Pelosi. Okay, Hillary Clinton has killed a shit ton of people. She's a Dem. Nancy Pelosi.
What is the policies of the Democrats? What would you say that the Democratic policy is? I mean, if there is
Make
one,
money.
I mean, like
it's the American policy. Make money on the backs of other people.
But here's my issue. Like, for example, here in Canada, when we say the left, like our left is very far left. Like we actually have social programs, like we have free healthcare, which we pay with our tax dollars. But like we have social programs integrated into a capitalist situation. In the U.S., I never see the Democrats fight for anything. Matter of fact, the Democrats are very weak in the U.S. And I feel like I don't like using that excuse weak. I feel like they're compliant, because when Republicans gerrymander districts to take votes from people of color, from immigrants, to not allow Dems or like certain, I feel like that's they're being compliant when they're not fighting against that.
Wait. Actually, specifically, because that's actually an interesting point. So, what would you say are the main differences between Democrats in the US and the left in Canada? So what do you think are the main glaring differences?
So in Canada, I feel the power is very balanced. Like when a politician, like even Justin Trudeau as a prime minister, he's not above anything. Like we're like anybody could get like we don't really have the same issues like in the US. Like for example, something in the US that I find in Democrats, like we're talking about the white nationalists that stormed the Capitol building. That's not the first time that's happened. That happened in 2016, where the Bundys, they stormed a federal building. They stormed and they camped out in it. They didn't just storm it for a day. They camped out in that building, and they only left because of the cold weather. And none of them got even a slap on the wrist. They got away with that because there wasn't public backlash, right? Democrats don't fight for those.
A police officer got murdered, and somebody went to jail for it. Or not? Well, he got shot. A officer got shot trying to siege the place. And one of the Bundys did go to jail for that, if not more.
But that's because he got shot up because he stormed the building, right? And that's privilege right there. That you the fact that
we're actually pressed because we've got like 10 minutes left. So
all I was going to say is like Democrats in the U.S. never fight for issues until they're pressed, until their backs against the wall. They would have never talked about these social issues if there wasn't a Trump in office to showcase that these issues are actually awful. And that's why I don't trust them, because I've never seen them, aside from Bernie Sanders, I've never seen a Democrat go out of his way and fight for a social issue, and that's the truth. You only hear about it when we're trying to get
wait, easy, because I want to bring in Ray because we're pressed, because I want to make sure that everyone has a say. So Ray, we're pretty much on this whole. So just if you just combine everything in one, because everybody has given their take. So thoughts on the Trump pardons, specifically your boy Lil Wayne. Thoughts on what's going to happen Wednesday onwards with Biden coming in, specifically with the far right groups? What is America going to look like with these malicious far right groups? Are you going to be seeing, with Trump gone, will that die down, or do you think he has opened up a kind of worms that's just going to continue to exist and evolve? So what does America look like from Wednesday onwards? And what do you make of the Trump parties and also the arrests as well made from the protesters?
So Wednesday's an arbitrary timeline, so Wednesday doesn't matter. It's really looking at a longer timeline. White supremacy has actually been a pretty big issue. I think since Obama got into office, FBI has been writing up these reports of a larger and larger threat. So while we're seeing what we're seeing today, this didn't come out of nowhere. And it actually didn't come when Trump got into office. Now, Trump fits very nicely into whatever this is. He rode that wave to power. But it was really Obama getting the office. Just getting in the office is really what triggered the signals for this mostly white supremacy. I think we kind of use that term too much. It's a big chunk of it, but it's not everything. But it's this pushback of the culture of how things used to be and how they're becoming. So race is still built on it, where back in the day, it wasn't so much white supremacy as this is the order of things, versus now, yeah, you might have to deal with some women and some minorities in charge of stuff. So that's the first statement. The gentleman was just speaking about Canada, Fast and Furious, totally agree. You don't see these kinds of problems, but you definitely see similar related problems. And by that, I mean, Canada is strongly left of center compared to America. The result of that is honestly why their economy is so weak. You look at Canada from 1980 to today, they have fell, I want to say 40 spots in their wealth against other countries in the world.
Sorry, Ray, I'm just going to interject on that because you are absolutely right. And fun fact, it's Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, who sold us out to the banks. And the reason why it was the Democrats, the left over here, that sold us out and really put us in debt. It wasn't even the social problems. It was him helping out the elitists and the bankers that got us into debt. But sorry, go ahead.
So I'm trying to stay on the clock here. So I'm spitting it all out real fast. So, which is why another little fact about Canada, their top 100 companies, over 50% of them are headed up by American CEOs who live in America. That's how bad they are at business. So yes, you don't have to worry about the far right storm and stuff, but you don't want to stay there either if you're trying to do business or make money or have an opportunity. Big picture. Those are very big stereotypes. But again, if you got Americans running your companies, that says a lot. Continuing forward about the idea of what do we do next, I don't think it's going away because, again, you can't wash away what started in 2008 overnight. I think there will be a need to adapt. There are some people taking a step back. They thought this was their time. It's not. And I think both sides will have to step back because the left, again, loves painting it as solely as white supremacist hillbillies from the woods. You got black racists. You got black racists. You got
I saw them.
You got black people who hate black people. So if the left doesn't figure out how to adapt to a situation so pervasive, and by pervasive, you had blacks watching black slaves. You had black slave catchers. This ain't new. We're going to have to be more honest about how complex the situation is if you're really going to handle it. Otherwise, you're going to be taking one step forward here, but two steps back over here. So I think the best thing that I'm hoping for out of the Biden presidency is we will show that, one, the world didn't fall apart under Trump. Two, a lot of the stuff he did can be reversed. It can be erased. And after it gets reversed and erased, the world won't fall apart. And honestly, I think big picture, Trump's just going to be a small tick in the progression movement for certain things. So yeah, he freed a whole bunch of his buddies. Is that true? Did he free Lil Wayne? I didn't see that.
No, well, I think that is close to being the most confirmed pardons.
I'll take that as a not yet. So
no, it's not officially he's not officially pardoned, but he's on his list.
Hey, I ain't mad at him or Lil Wayne. I guess my thing is it might mean a lot of things, but I think that I heard a rumor about 100 of them. I don't think 100 pardons is going to kill America. The same way that Trump's attempts, he did a lot of stuff, but We drag this out 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The progression that we have been seeing is going to continue. So I think people like Trump and the people that supported Trump, they had their full rights as Americans or even just humans to feel how they feel. But big picture, this country's going to go one direction. And they can keep claiming doomsday, but honestly, life gets better every 5 years, every 10 years in this country. So we'll keep moving.
So a few people wanted to jump in. If people wanted to jump, so I think it was MB that wanted to jump in. Maybe it's when that Red was saying.
No, it's just Ray made that point. Catch a Freeman, you know. You got to understand something. To the average brother on the street, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't really matter in terms of the understanding that that person doesn't have that, you know, that brother's best interest in mind. So it's not really something like I get what you're saying. Oh, the Democrats are weak. Oh, this, that. Bro, if the Democrats were so weak and didn't do things, how are they getting rich on the same scale as the Republicans who were supposedly making movers and shakers, right?
Oh, no, they do things for themselves. They won't do things for you.
But that's my point. That is not any different than the Republican side.
Exactly. That's why I said they're compliant with them. I don't believe the Democrats are against the Republicans. I believe, like,
but the Republicans aren't necessarily evil, brother, is what I'm saying.
Oh, they're not.
They do them. They do them. It's the American way.
Personally, for me, like, where I land on the political sphere, like, policy-wise, I am very conservative. Socially, I'm very liberal or left. Like, and when it comes to social issues, when it comes to like gay marriage, weed, all this stuff, I believe that's people are entitled to it. But when it comes to running a government, like, I agree with Ray. Like, I like how the U.S. operates on economically, and that's why I'm a bit more conservative in the way I like on politically. But my critique of the Democrats is not like that. Is that I feel like they just allow too much to happen. Like, the Republicans get like I said, like, for me, the biggest scandal I ever learned about the U.S. politics is gerrymandering. The fact that they could, even if you go out and vote, they will find a way to steal your vote. Just to clarify for everyone that doesn't know what gerrymandering is. So pretty much when you're voting in districts, right? So what they'll do is, let's say, for example, if this district has a lot of left voters, right? They'll go and divide that district in half and like apply one half to like a majority Republican district. So that way, that district gets outvoted now. You have the same number of people voting, but because of the way they divvy it up, the vote essentially gets canceled.
If you want to see I
kind of want to meet the person who listens to this conversation doesn't know what gerrymandering means. That's a pretty.
Be nice, Ray. Be nice. No, in all seriousness, real quick, Larry Elder. I don't know if you guys saw the demonstration that we had in Texas at the Texas Capitol, and Larry Elder came out and was taking pictures with those guys, and he was basically saying, yeah, you know, of course he wasn't wearing a mask either. Yeah, no, you want to get this picture over here with the Capitol in the background. These are bugaboos, you know what I mean? These are the militia guys, right? He's taking pictures with these assholes with the Capitol in the background, and you know, he's also the one that said he didn't want to acknowledge Biden's victory. So he's a brother, but is he?
I mean, Larry Elder has been. I want to say I've read one of his books. I read one or two of his books. He's been on the fringe for a while, man. He's one of those black conservatives that sometimes says good things and then sometimes says crazy things. I don't know what to really think about him. I haven't seen what you talked about, MB. I got to read about it on the news. But yeah, it's Larry right there. He wrote a book called Stupid Black Men, where he basically like roasts any black man born after 1980, and it's really interesting, his perspective on things. But I'm not surprised, man. He's not as bad as Jesse Lee Peterson. Y'all guys need to check out Jesse Lee Peterson. That motherfucker is crazy, man.
So last thing, and then I literally have to get up because I've got to head somewhere. So, and anybody can just jump in just very briefly. Biden as president, how much truly changes with America? Honestly speaking, no bullshit. How much truly changes with Biden as president?
It'll be Obama 2.0.
I would say that he's already signaling what he's going to do via his inauguration in general. I think that there was a lot of pandering to Black people to get the Black vote out. But then there is a specific ball happening tonight, specifically for Latinos, because of the significant amount of voters that went to Trump versus going to the Democratic Party. So I don't think that I don't think Black people are going to come up, because clearly, if Latinos are the only minority that get a specific ball when the theme of his entire inauguration is unity, I find that very weird and very signaling. And I think that Kamala probably should have said something to this. But I do think that, again, it's just going to be a lot of pandering to get certain votes, to make sure that he keeps the House and the Senate. And I think in terms of it being an Obama 2.0, I think that Biden has been around for a very long time. And I think that he is somebody who has always been, I hate to say like warmonger, but I do think he essentially is just, he's going to support war. He's going to support, antagonizing the rest of the world. And I think that, to Red's point, I think that in terms of like what Obama did during his presidency, I think what he did was similar to what his face in general, being placed out there as the face of the United States, is similar to Black women who are put out there in front of cameras to stop the rest of everyone from like protesting against, the government and the police state and all of that stuff. Like they used Obama to say like, hey, we're not specifically just targeting, these countries with like dark faces and things like that. Our president is Black. I think that they used him in the same way. And I think that they'll use Kamala in the same fashion.
Can I jump in on this?
Yeah, jump in.
So for Biden, I expect nothing to change, and the reason for that is they already screwed up with Trump because he appointed 3 chief justices for the Supreme Court. Like just to show you how major, that's the biggest court in the land. They could overrun everything, and now it's majority conservative, which I was surprised that Democrats allowed that to happen in the election year, because if you remember 2016, the Republicans would not allow Obama to appoint a chief justice, even though Obama's pick was a conservative pick. They still would not allow him to pick
but
one.
They did that his whole deal, Red. Remember, they wouldn't, like Mitch McConnell literally said the other day he regrets now blocking Obama from being able to do a lot of the stuff that he tried to do. Now this, but you got to understand what could really with the Senate majority in the Republicans' hands, what really could the Democrats have done there?
Nothing. Like it's true, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I feel like the Democrats, they just don't, because they only vote. If you look at the Democrats' numbers in voting, they only vote when it's a major election, right? Like an Obama, like that's against Trump, like for the senators, for the actual like the governors, Democrats don't show up for those voting. They don't show up for it at all.
So, but remember, because what press was saying, so just how much do you think will change?
I feel like U.S. on the international stage, they're going to be more present than they have in the past 4 years, because they've actually ghosted from a lot of treaties, from a lot of like situations. I feel like you're going to find more presence. You're going to see more of that. On a social scale, I just don't see them moving it much, because, like I said, the inside politics of the U.S., there's just too much. There's the House, there's the Senate, there's the Supreme Court, there's that, and the Republicans are going to do everything in their power to make it harder for Biden, even if he wants to push an issue. So yeah, that's my thought.
So quickly, anyone who wants to jump in? How much do you think things will change for Biden?
I don't think it will change in the timeline that some people need to see it in. Some people need to see a country this complex change in a week or a month or a year. It's kind of ridiculous. You got to look at a longer timeline. So Trump getting knocked out the box in this 4-year run, it's actually a pretty big deal. So I think this is a really big moment for change for America, because again, it allows the progressive direction to continue going forward. Despite what Republicans claim, they have not been the champions of any real progressive movement, anything. So what you're seeing here is, they won a couple districts, but they lost entire states. If I'm a Democrat, I'll take that all day long. You get a new district, I get a new state. Let's do Texas next. So I think the country is going to continue to get younger. I think Trump was a good thing for Democrats, because he showed what's possible when you get lax. They got real lax on 2016 with Hillary, like it was a guarantee. If I'm a Democrat, I'm going to do that 2024. I'm like, listen, if you don't get out and vote, they're going to put another Trump in. So I think big picture, Trump might have been one of the greatest assets the Democrats ever got moving forward.
I was going to say Trump is the gift that keeps on giving the Democrats.
He's a great gift.
That'll work. But 10, 15, 20 years from now, when kids don't even know who Donald Trump is, or he's a faded memory like the way Ronald Reagan is versus to my parents. We might see another Trump in that time frame. Who knows? But
valid point, because I argue Trump is really Wilson. Valid point.
But what I will say is that to what Red was saying, I think, you know, of all the cases that happen, there's going on in the states to hit circuit judges, state judges, federal judges, the Supreme Court doesn't see all of that, right? I mean, Supreme Court sees a few cases a year, so I wouldn't really lean on the Supreme. The makeup of the Supreme Court is not going to affect the country as much as you think. Those federal judges that Trump appointed when he was in power will affect the country, and that's what.
The only thing is with the Supreme Court is that their precedent is the strongest. Like when they pass, like who passed gay marriage?
If they even get a court, if they even get a case, there are cases that don't even reach the Supreme Court.
But I think his point is, while it doesn't reach up there, the rest of the courts do follow them. So let's look at residential real estate in America. The reason why we're still so segregated is because of the Supreme Court failure beginning in the 1880s to actually enforce the 14th and 15th Amendments. Because they failed to enforce these things through the courts, it set a precedence that no one, which is why even to this, I want to say 2016, last time I was looking at a case, we still have Justice Roberts citing previous court cases going back to the 50s, 60s, 1920s, and so on. So the court, honestly, the conservatives know they don't have the numbers, and the way that they do things, they're not going to get numbers anytime soon. So the court play was lucky for them because you can't time who dies when.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry guys, because I was trying to talk about great convo. So look, man, all I'm saying is this, man, is that let's just see what happens with this whole inauguration. My brother is convinced that something is going to happen on Wednesday. I say no, but my brother says that something is going to go down. So let's just see what goes down. Hopefully nothing crazy. And for all of those guys in America,
somebody's going to be inaugurated president. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen, HH. Like
no. I don't think it's going to happen. But my brother is adamant that he believes they will. So I'm just saying, like, well, we'll just see what happens. But I don't think anything will. But look, for anyone in America, but just stay safe. Stay prepared and stay aware, man. And look, man, as I said again, I think in a few months' time, we're going to be seeing the TNN, Trump News Network, and Trump doing his own thing in his own office. It's happening, TNN. Guys, thanks very much. I've got to Trump. Thanks, guys. Peace out. Peace out, guys. Peace.